Welcome to Reddit Echoes, where ordinary secrets echo into stories you'll never forget. In today's episode, I'm bringing you 6 stories that will make you pause, breathe a little deeper, and ask yourself, what would I have done in their shoes? We have someone who uncovered the truth about their father after living over 20 years in a lie. A girl who was humiliated, arrested, and expelled for standing up to a bully. And a mother who finally had to admit she put her trust in the wrong child. These aren't just stories. They're raw confessions about identity, justice, betrayal, and the kind of kindness that often goes unnoticed. Fair warning, some of these stories might make you furious. Others might just break your heart. So get ready, because after this video, you might never look at the people around you the same way again. Story 1. I found out. My dad isn't my biological father, and the truth shattered my heart. I never thought a DNA test kit would be the thing to destroy my entire world. Honestly, I just wanted to know if I had some Irish ancestors, or maybe find out which part of Europe my roots came from. What I didn't expect was to uncover something that would change how I saw my mother forever, and make me question who exactly was the man who raised me. It all started out as a joke, really. Some of my friends teased me. You don't look anything like your dad. And to be fair, they weren't wrong. I'm darker-skinned, curly hair, and he was pale with blonde hair. But who cares? He was my dad. The guy who taught me to ride a bike, who held me when my first pet died, who always laughed at my terrible jokes. Then I took that DNA test and made the biggest mistake of my life. The results came back and they were clear I was mixed race. And half of my DNA came from a part of the world that no one in my family had any connection to. That was when the floor started to crack beneath me. I called my stepfather the man my mom married after my dad passed away. I was angry, confused, desperate for answers. I expected him to tell me not to worry, that it must be a mistake. Instead, he sighed and said, "Your mom once mentioned something, that when she was young she went to a party. She thinks someone may have drugged her. She's not completely sure what happened. But weeks later she found out she was pregnant. She was already trying to have a baby with your dad, so she chose to believe the child was his." I froze. I'm the product of a potential assault. And my mom, the woman I admired for being strong and composed, had carried that secret alone for nearly 30 years. I didn't know what to feel. Guilt for digging up this pain. Anger for being lied to. Heartbreak knowing that maybe my dad knew and still chose to love me anyway. I thought back to every memory, him carrying me when I had a fever, calling me my boy with so much pride, teaching me to fish, to tie a tie, cheering me on even when I failed. Did he know? Maybe. Probably. But he never once made me feel like anything other than his son. And my mom? I haven't spoken to her since I found out. I want to, but I can't. Every time I see her name on my phone, I feel this deep, hollow fear. Not of her, but of hearing the truth from her lips. Because once it's spoken, I don't know if I'll ever recover. I feel like I don't belong anywhere anymore. My biological father. Some stranger I'll never know. My mother. A woman I love but can't look at the same. And the only man I ever called dad. He's gone. For years I believed I had a normal family. Now, I feel like an imposter, a child raised by silence and secrets. But in the middle of all that pain, there's one truth I keep holding on to. He stayed. He chose me. Whether he knew or not, he was there. He went to every parent-teacher meeting. He hugged me after every heartbreak. He showed up when no DNA test ever asked him to, and I won't let a lab result erase that. I haven't forgiven my mother. Not yet. I'm still hurting. But I'm starting to understand. Family isn't just about blood. It's about the people who stay, who love you, who choose you, even when everything else says they don't have to. Story 2. I got arrested for being bullied, and everyone believed her lies. I never thought I'd end my 17th year of life in handcuffs, getting fingerprinted, photographed like a criminal, and tossed into a holding cell. But here we are, and this is why I no longer believe in the word justice. I'm 17, turning 18 in less than a week. I've been struggling with PTSD and insomnia for a while. One night I stayed up until nearly 5 a.m. Couldn't sleep. My thoughts were like tidal waves crashing non-stop. So yeah, like a typical teenager, I turned on some adult content just to distract myself and hopefully pass out. I fell asleep for maybe 90 minutes. 6:30 a.m. I was mid-dream when my mom slammed my bedroom door open, yelling, "Get up! The police are downstairs." "Excuse me, what?" I scrambled up half asleep, threw on whatever clothes I could find, and rushed down to the living room. 2 police officers were standing there cold as stone. One of them said, "You're being charged with online harassment. We're placing you under arrest." And I just stood there like, what? Before I could even ask anything else, they took my phone and cuffed me right there in front of my parents. No explanation, no details. They said I'd learn more at the station. On the way to the car, they asked for my phone password. I didn't want to give it, not because I had anything criminal in there, but because I'd literally left an adult tab open from the night before. So I mumbled, "Can I give it to you in the car? There's personal stuff on there." At that moment, I felt like I was the actual criminal. They unlocked the phone, flipped through the browser, and one officer's face twitched like he'd just seen a horror movie. Then he slammed the phone shut like it was haunted. I wish I could have evaporated right there. And that was just the warm-up. At the station, they searched my phone case and found a fake ID I used to buy vape pens and alcohol. Yep, right there. Handed it straight to my parents. I almost died of embarrassment. Thankfully, they didn't press charges for that, but honestly, it didn't matter. I was already dying inside. They threw me in a holding cell, cold gray walls, buzzing fluorescent lights, and in that moment, I genuinely thought about ending it all. Then my lawyer showed up, and I finally found out why I was arrested. Turns out a girl from school, the same girl who had bullied me for months, filed charges against me for online harassment. And, I did say some awful things to her. I won't lie. But I said them after she called me fake, spread rumors that I was seducing teachers, and mocked the scars on my arms from self-harm in front of the whole class. She bullied kids with autism. She tore down anyone who wasn't perfect. I had reported her multiple times, and the school did nothing. And now I was the one in a jail cell. I was the one losing friends. I was the one suspended from school. Months later, the police couldn't even find enough evidence to charge me. I was released. No record. No official charges. But guess what? My school still expelled me. They said they needed to protect her. Funny, because when I came to them asking for protection, they didn't even listen. I lost everything. My reputation, my education, my mental stability, all because I stood up to someone who was breaking me piece by piece. And no one had my back. Now I'm out of school until 2026. I'm trying to appeal with the help of youth justice. But even if I get back, I won't be the same girl who walked in that building. The trauma of that night, the humiliation, the loneliness, it stays with me. And every day I ask myself, if I were a boy or someone else, would they have treated me differently? I wish just one person had believed me. I wish for once that justice actually stood with the victim. Have you ever been wrongly accused or punished for standing up to a bully? Tell me your story in the comments, because you deserve to be heard. Story 3. I got fired for taking off my prosthetic leg. Yeah, that happened. I didn't get fired for being bad at my job. I didn't get fired for being lazy. I didn't even get fired for breaking company policy. Nope. I got fired for taking off my prosthetic leg during lunch. Let me walk you through this ridiculous yet painfully real story. I worked at a company I'll call No Sense of Humor, Inc. Every Friday, my little team, about 5 people, mostly women, would go out for lunch together. It was our mini tradition to unwind after a long week. Now one of my co-workers, let's call her Hannah, is often described as sweet but sensitive, especially about her weight. She was always on some kind of diet, keto, fasting juice cleanses, you name it. But ironically, during one of our lunches, she was devouring a massive sandwich while dramatically sighing, "Ugh, it's so hard to lose 10 pounds. People think it's easy." Cue my sarcastic self, who clearly didn't read the room. I smirked and said I could lose 10 pounds in 10 seconds. Everyone turned to me confused. Hannah's eyes narrowed. Before she could snap back with something like, "Are you calling me fat?" I leaned over, calmly detached my prosthetic leg, set it on the table, and went, boom! 10 pounds. Gone. I thought it was hilarious. In my head, it was a perfect Louis C.K. style dark joke. Dead silence. One person choked on their drink. Another tried to hide a giggle. Hannah's mouth agape. Not angry, just stunned. Then she started crying. She stood up, shoved her chair back, and stormed out like I had just insulted her entire lineage. I immediately apologized. I explained that I wasn't mocking her. I use humor to cope with my disability. I always have. It helps people feel less awkward around me. And usually it works. But not this time. The next morning I get an email from HR. Mandatory meeting. I walk in and legal's there too. Uh-oh. They tell me someone lodged a formal complaint. That I had inappropriate behavior, made people uncomfortable, and created an unsafe work environment. Because of my prosthetic leg. I calmly explained I made a joke about myself. I didn't mention her weight. I didn't insult anyone. I removed my own leg as part of the joke. Their response intent doesn't matter as much as impact. You made a colleague feel uncomfortable. I said, "It's a titanium leg. I have the right to remove it whenever I want." Didn't matter. They fired me for inappropriate conduct in a professional setting. You think that's the wildest part? Wait for it. I anonymously shared the story online. Didn't mention the company, didn't name anyone. Just venting. And someone I'd bet money it was Hannah flagged the post. My account got a warning for spreading misinformation about workplace experiences. Now I'm jobless, one-legged, and apparently I'm a workplace menace because I dared to make a prosthetic leg joke. I've learned one brutal lesson. If you're a disabled guy who dares to not be silent and solemn, you're the problem. But you know what? I'll still crack jokes. I'll still take my leg off if it itches, or if it makes people laugh. And if I ever see Hannah again, I might just say, "Next time you can use my leg as a dumbbell. That'll burn 10 pounds real fast." Mic drop. ChatGPT Jun Noi, Story 4. My son is a living, breathing nightmare. I'm a 37-year-old dad. And today I'm about to say the one thing no parent ever wants to admit out loud. I wanted to strangle my son. Not literally, but after this past week, you'll probably want to join me. My 13-year-old son just got expelled. Not for cheating, not for vaping, not even for playing games in class. He got kicked out of school because of a lethal combo. Too much testosterone and the emotional IQ of a potato wrapped in teenage delusion. It all started with a girl in his class. His crush. Totally normal, right? We've all had middle school crushes. The problem? This kid thought she was his property. One day, another boy, and I mean literally just a classmate, dared to talk to the girl. My son went full gorilla mode, stomped over, punched the kid in the face, and screamed, "Back off my girlfriend, let's break this down." 1, they weren't even dating. 2, the other kid just asked to borrow a pen. 3, I had to leave work during a meeting to sit in the principal's office while being told that my son assaulted another student. When I asked him why, he grinned like a smug little punk and said, "Because he tried to steal my girl." I've spent years teaching my kid about respect, consent, and not treating women like collectibles. But apparently between my lectures and whatever crap he watches on TikTok, he decided to take advice from some hoodie-wearing alpha male preaching, "Never let anyone into your territory, bro." He got detention, or the school's fancy version, in-school isolation. I grounded him, no phone, no games, no friends. You'd think that would knock some sense into him. Nah. The next day, he pulled the fire alarm. Yup, middle of class. Pulled it just for fun. Whole school evacuated. Fire trucks, cops, chaos. And the reason I was bored. So yeah. He got expelled. Permanently. Now I'm stuck figuring out how to homeschool a 13-year-old maniac while working 9 to 5, 5 days a week. I don't have the time. I don't have a tutor. I don't have a support system. And I definitely don't have the patience for a kid who can't spell respect, but thinks he's the next mafia kingpin. His mom, my ex, lives in freaking New Zealand. She said, if you can't handle it, send him here. And for the first time in my life, the idea of shipping my kid to another hemisphere felt weirdly appealing. I called my uncle, a retired math teacher, to help out. Problem is, the man only teaches calculus. So my son's on track to become a differential equations genius who thinks Lincoln was a Marvel character. Right now, I'm sitting in the living room watching him chew a pen while secretly scrolling TikTok on an iPad under the table, and I'm thinking, where did I go wrong? I didn't spoil him. I disciplined him. I taught him right from wrong. Yet somehow I ended up with the villain from a low-budget high school movie. And before you say he probably has a mental health issue, get him help. Guess what I am? Therapists, behavioral specialists, guidance counselors. I'm trying them all. But I haven't found one yet who knows how to handle a wannabe Tony Montana who just discovered facial hair. I don't want to hit him. I don't want to ignore him. But I can't keep losing jobs just to clean up the mess he leaves behind every week. Honestly, if the school fire alarm goes off again, I hope it's real. Just so he knows what it feels like when other people have to run because of his nonsense. Because right now, the only thing burning is my sanity. ChatGPT John Noy. Story 5. My mom finally admitted she picked the wrong son. I'm a 27-year-old man, and last week, for the first time in my life, I heard the words I've been dying to hear for the past 2 decades. I'm sorry. I think I trusted the wrong son. Sounds simple, right? But trust me to understand why I broke down sobbing when I heard it. You need to know the full story. I'm the eldest, my little brother. He's been the golden child since day one. He could light a fire in the living room and somehow I'd get blamed for providing the matches. Mom paid his rent. She paid his DUI fines. She even lied to the cops once to protect him after a hit and run. Seriously, she stood there and swore it wasn't him behind the wheel. Me, I busted my A, graduated with honors, worked 2 jobs just to survive, never asked mom for a dime. And every single time I came home, I'd hear, "Why can't you be more like your brother?" You know that soul-crushing feeling, doing everything right, and still being second best to the guy who does nothing but lie, steal, and self-destruct. The last time I talked to my mom was 3 years ago. She wanted me to co-sign a bank loan for my brother. Yeah, the same brother who trashed my credit years ago. I told her no. She screamed over the phone, "You're the one tearing this family apart." I hung up, haven't spoken to her since. Then last week, I got a voicemail. I stared at it for hours before pressing play. And when I finally heard her voice broken, shaky, almost unrecognizable, I cried. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I think I put my faith in the wrong person. I've lost everything." Turns out, my brother conned her. He convinced her to invest her entire retirement savings into a fake startup he and his loser friends made up. Within weeks, he disappeared. Vanished. That money wasn't just her retirement, it was all she had left to keep her house. Now the bank is coming for it. And suddenly, she turns to me. The backup plan. I didn't know how to feel. Part of me wanted to scream, "Told you so." But the other part was still that 7-year-old kid holding up his honor roll certificate, hoping for one smile from his mom. I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired. Because that apology. It wasn't about me being right. It was about my brother being beyond saving. I still don't know if she's sorry because she finally sees me, or because she needs someone to rescue her now. And I'm telling this story not for praise, but so someone out there understands what it's like to grow up as the just-in-case child, the one who only matters when the favorite fails. I'm not a bank. I'm not insurance. I'm not the family crisis hotline. I'm her son, and I used to want so badly to be trusted, to be protected, to be loved, the way my brother was. But now I don't know what's left. Trust eaten away one comparison at a time. Love, maybe, but it's wrapped in the scar tissue of every childhood wound. What would you do? Call her back and forgive, or let her sit in the mess that blind favoritism created? I don't know. All I know is that for the first time ever, I heard her say, "I'm sorry." And somehow, that hurt more than never hearing "I love you" at all. Story 6. I fixed my neighbor's faucet and inherited his apartment. You know that cheesy line, kindness always gets rewarded. Yeah, I used to roll my eyes at that too, until I got a call from a lawyer. But before I tell you why I dropped my phone, spilled my coffee all over the table, and just sat there stunned that morning, let me take you back to when I was just the nosy neighbor. I live in a small apartment complex in the suburbs, the kind of place so quiet it's creepy. Most residents are retired elderly or have no one left in their lives. I was one of the few young people around 30, single, financially independent, kept to myself, and liked it that way. Except for one person. Apartment 4B, owned by a grumpy old man, maybe 70, who wore the same off-white t-shirt every day, socks pulled up to his knees with house slippers, and a permanent scowl that made it look like the entire world owed him money. No one talked to him. No one said hi. No one dared knock. Except me. It started 2 months ago on a Tuesday night. I was watching Netflix when I heard this loud clang followed by "God damn it." Then the unmistakable sound of water gushing like a fire hydrant had exploded next door. I hesitated. But then I thought, screw it, just knock. 3 knocks. No answer. One more louder this time. Door creaks open. There he is, standing ankle-deep in water, red-faced, holding a wrench like a weapon, YouTube playing on an iPad balanced on a kitchen chair, and a faucet spraying water straight up to the ceiling. We stared at each other. Then he goes, "You know how to fix this?" I nodded. Whether that was stupidity or kindness, I still don't know. 1 hour, 2. Water-in-the-face moments, 3 near-slip disasters, and 1 angry trip to Home Depot. Later, I fixed it. He didn't say thank you. Just gave me a slight nod and slammed the door. I walked back to my place thinking, well, that's that. Never again. But somehow, I kept showing up. Next week, I saw him struggling with the mailbox. I helped. Then I carried his meds home from the pharmacy. Sometimes we'd chat about baseball in the hallway. He never smiled. But instead of 1 grunt, I'd get 2. Sometimes he'd say, yeah. That felt like progress. Then 2 weeks ago, I found out he died. Heart attack. Instant. No pain. No one with him. I was genuinely sad. I didn't even know his name. Until the next day when a lawyer called. Turns out he left me his apartment. Paid off. Fully furnished. With a note in his will. To the kid who actually knocked and didn't run when I swore at him. I thought I'd feel happy, but instead, I just felt choked up. Because I never expected the smallest acts of kindness to matter. Or maybe I was the only one left who gave a damn about him. And that's heartbreaking. Now I live in that apartment. Every time I turn on the faucet, I think of him and that stubborn nod he gave me like it physically hurt. I never did any of it expecting something back. But maybe we help people not because we want something in return, but because someone out there needs to know they're still worth noticing. And those were 6 stories that left me feeling hurt, angry, but also strangely relieved because at least the truth was finally told. These weren't just Reddit posts. They were real moments. Moments when people broke down, stood back up, and decided they wouldn't let anyone silence their voice ever again. Which story hit you the hardest? Drop a comment below. I read them all. And don't forget, like the video, share it if you've ever seen yourself in a story like this, and subscribe so you won't miss the next true Reddit stories. See you in the next episode of Reddit Echoes, where your voice gets heard.